Today in the new calendar we celebrate Saint Pope Pius X, who had many reforms in his time in the early 1900s, exception of frequent Holy Communion. And also, most importantly, I think for our time, he's known to fight against the heresy of modernism. So we can think, before him, there was 1900 years of the life of the church, the history of the church. And all the councils had to refute some errors. When he says modernism is the synthesis of all heresies, there's a lot there. Hopefully in your hands you have the handout of the Oath Against Modernism. You can see that he wrote this oath in 1910, and it was to be sworn by all clergy, pastors, confessors, preachers, religious superiors, and professors in philosophical theological seminaries. This was an oath sworn by all of those people in 1910 up to 1967. In 1967, it was rescinded, no longer obligatory to make this oath. We're not going to read it all. I'm just going to give some highlights of it so you understand some of the errors that were happening in 1910 that would force the hand of Pope St. Pius X to ask all of these teachers and preachers and leaders to take this oath. He says, first of all, I profess that God, the origin and the end of all things, can be known with certainty by the natural light of reason from the created world. That comes all the way from the First Vatican Council in the 1800s, mid-1800s, that we can know God by our natural reason, by the created world. Secondly, he says, I accept and acknowledge the external proofs of revelation, that is, divine acts, and especially miracles and prophecies, as the surest signs of the divine origin, etc. At the time, and even today, you hear people, preachers even, question miracles. That when Jesus multiplied the loaves and the fish, it wasn't a miracle that happened, but rather people sharing the food that they brought. You hear that preached today. It's an error. It's denying divine acts, especially miracles and prophecies. Thirdly, I believe with equal firm faith that the church, the guardian and teacher of the revealed word, was personally instituted by the real and historic Christ. There are people that deny that Jesus was a real person, that he was a historic figure, and that he personally instituted the church. Fourthly, I sincerely hold that the doctrine of faith was handed down to us from the apostles. I entirely reject the heretical misrepresentation that dogmas evolve and change from one meaning to another, different from the one which the church held previously. So we believe that the faith that we have comes from the apostles. Even we call ourselves Roman Catholics because our faith comes from Rome with the apostles Peter and Paul. And that what we hold firm in faith isn't something that has evolved over time, changing, being different. It's remained the same. In fact, at the end of that paragraph which I was reading, where he's talking about fourthly, the fourth point says that, talking about philosophical figments or a product of human conscience that has gradually been developed by human effort and will continue to develop indefinitely. It's a problem today, my brothers and sisters, even the catechism we have today. If catechisms can change, the doctrines in catechisms can change, what use is the book at all for us? Catechisms should teach truths that are perennial. The truth doesn't change. It doesn't evolve, and we don't make it up through human effort. Fifthly, I hold with certainty and sincerely confess that faith is not a blind sentiment of religion welling up from the depths of the subconscious, under the impulse of the heart and the motion of a will trained to a morality. What he means there is that we don't come to church because of feeling good. We don't believe in God because of our feelings. We believe in God, and our faith rests upon the truth that's been handed down to us from the apostles, and that Jesus Christ, the true historic person, has instituted. Furthermore, I reject the opinion of those who hold should first put aside any preconceived opinion about the supernatural origin of Catholic tradition. So once again, we have a questioning of supernatural origins of the church and our traditions. Finally, I am completely opposed that a group of men, by their own labor, skill, and talent, have continued through subsequent ages a school begun by Christ and his apostles. We are not here by our own labor, skill, and talent. We haven't made up stuff from the times of the Christ and the apostles. It hasn't evolved, but it's grown like a seed in the ground that's grown into a fruitful tree. Our faith is organic. This is the Oath Against Modernism, the heresy modernism. I encourage you to read it and ask yourself if you would sign it today. Do you believe what Pope St. Pius X had asked all teachers and preachers and leaders to sign? If you have some questions, concerns, doubts about anything in this document, talk to me. Let's work through them together. Let's trust in everything that the church has handed down to us through the ages, through the popes, through the saints, through our tradition.